Okay, so I just actually finished two custom figures that are very, very much passion projects of mine, and I'm really happy with them, but I want to give them a couple of more days to just kind of like set in, like, am I truly finished with them, or do I want to do a little bit more work, etc. So in the meantime, I figured I would take a look at the MCU Man-Thing figure. And I thought this was fitting because I am one of the pre-MCU, about 50 Man-Thing fans on the planet. I love this character so much. And I'm just honestly happy that he's getting some screen time, even if he is very, very different from his comic book interpretation, but he's kind of close enough. It may sound a little bit weird, but Man-Thing in the comics doesn't really have too much of a personality. He's more of like a force of nature, and in the MCU, they very much made him a character with a personality and whatnot, but at least he looks really good, and what they did with him wasn't egregious. I can see that it's going to be easier for them to incorporate him in a lot of more stories, and teaming him up with Werewolf by Night was kind of an interesting choice, but I'll take it. So, taking a look at this Man-Thing figure here, I figured it would be fitting to bring in my customized comic version. This is one of my favorite figures of all time. This is very much his Thunderbolts appearance, which is my favorite, just kind of like run of Man-Thing in general, and he is actually surprisingly different. His torso and his upper arms are completely new. The shoulders at least. The arms here are kind of the same. However, onto the differences. So I would figure they wouldn't really go all out on Manny here, but they actually did do a surprisingly amount of work on him. His entire upper body is brand new. As you can see, he's got like some weird rib cage thing here, and he has a new little stump sticking out here, and his shoulders are new. His biceps are actually the old one, but the forearms here are new because he doesn't have this big, like, hangy, droopy grass thing here, and his hands are also new. For the legs, they're also completely new because, once again, he doesn't have the kind of bushier, wet grass hanging down. The loincloth is the same? No, the loincloth is different too. And, but then aside from that, I think everything else lines up. Yeah, the branch is there, twig is there, and the mushrooms are there. So this guy is pretty much 70% new, and all things considered, that's pretty impressive for Marvel Legends, especially with a character like Man-Thing, where they could have just gotten away with throwing a new head on him and called it a day. But I really, really appreciate the extra effort. So for the head, I'm not really a fan of how this head worked out. So in order for him to look forward, you kind of have to put it up as far as possible, and then you get this huge gap here. And if you want it to look more natural, he looks straight down into the ground. And I get that Manny is quite a bit taller than a lot of characters. I guess we'll throw in Admiral Thrawn here for comparison. But yeah, so it works in terms of him just like looking down on people. But for a display, you kind of want him to just face forward. And I don't know, I think they could have done something here to get rid of this unsightly gap. This guy here kind of also has a gap, as you can see here. But it's a lot less egregious because unless it's head-on straight from the side, it kind of gets hidden by how hangy, by like these grass drape thingies. And yeah, I just much prefer the look of Man-Thing in the comics in general. They also surprisingly didn't detail his eyes. So Man-Thing in the comics has straight up just red eyes. And in the MCU, they decided to give him pupils. And I guess, once again, it's to make it easier for him to emote and stuff. But I don't know. I kind of prefer the completely red. But again, change isn't that much of a big deal, especially in a multiverse where I still have my beloved comic book Man-Thing. And meanwhile, this guy is just allowed to exist on his own without necessarily impacting Manny from the 616 universe. So overall, I think this is a really, really impressive showing from Hasbro. However, he is a little bit plain looking. He is very just cast in green, and then he has this kind of drab brown as detailing, and then he has this one tiny little flower, which I'm a big fan of. But I think in order to make him pop, we should give him a little bit of a paint wash. And we have Nuln oil here, and we're just gonna give him a quick little paint job. So the Nuln oil here is very, very watery. We just slather it all over the figure, and it's gonna run down into the creases and create some shadow. And then we're gonna do a dry brush, and he's gonna look absolutely beautiful, hopefully. That you see the idea here in the torso, especially. How the black goes down into the grooves here. Try to be careful to not touch this flower, because I really want this flower to stay this nice bright yellow for contrast. And I'm also not going to show the entire thing, because it's literally just me slathering a bunch of black onto him. But again, you get the idea. And then we'll get back to it when he's dried up a little bit. Okay, so the wash is dried, and as you can see, he has darkened quite a bit, and there's a little bit more detail prominent now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dry brush, and I just mixed some regular Vallejo green with some white, and we're just going to dust over him like this. And you see, like here, how it just brightens up everything. Adding a little bit of yellow and some brown. So here is Ted, or Manny, or whatever you want to call him, completed. And yeah, just a lot of washes and dry brushes to bring the detail out. I'll probably, you know, make a comparison picture, and so you can see really how much everything has changed. The light doesn't really do this figure any justice. I also added 2 little pupils for his eyes, because I was watching some clips of him from Werewolf by Night just for reference, and after re-looking at this figure, it did kind of look a bit off that his eyes were completely red. I will still keep them red for this guy because he's perfect, but I think these eyes turned out pretty good. They're not really perfectly round, they're not supposed to be either. They're kind of like speckly. It kind of looks like Kirby Crackle a little bit, and when he gets really angry, the pupils actually like split apart into just some bubbling black in his eyes. So yeah, it will do. I think the sculpt in general is a little bit inaccurate. I think his eyes are too far apart in comparison to the actual show model. Yeah, just a quick little dry brush job, and then hopefully next week I will show you something more substantial. So thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed.